Hello, everyone. I'm Jen Cameron, and I'm the Assistant Vice President of the Duke Annual Fund. Thank you so much for joining us today as we celebrate the power of collective impact. Today is Giving Tuesday, a global movement that inspires hundreds of millions of people to give, collaborate, and celebrate generosity. Giving Tuesday was envisioned as a day to focus on and support the causes that matter most to each of us during the holiday season. Duke is excited to once again participate in Giving Tuesday. Today, like in previous years, the One Duke community has come together in amazing ways to support the people and causes they care about most at Duke by donating to the Duke Annual Fund. In a few minutes, you will hear from Valerie Ashby and Ravi Bellamkonda, two of Duke's 10 deans. As you listen to their remarks, I know you will be inspired by how our students, our faculty and staff overcame tremendous odds to create a successful fall semester. One that welcomed students back to campus or to digital learning from wherever they were, where university leaders planned for and executed safety measures to ensure the health and well-being of our campus community while continuing to deliver a world-class Duke education to all students. Much of our success can be tied to philanthropy and specifically to annual fund support. Valerie and Ravi will share how these donations of flexible resources made so much possible throughout the summer and fall and will continue to do so into the spring. This is why, in honor of Giving Tuesday, today, December 1st, we have set a goal to raise 1,201 donors to the Duke Annual Fund. At this point, I'm excited to announce that we have seen over 560 alumni, parents, and friends join our One Day, One Duke campaign. While this is fantastic, we still have a ways to go. I hope you will join us. You can make a gift to one or more of Duke's 16 annual funds by using the URL or QR code on this slide. What will you make possible with your donation? Now it is my pleasure to introduce Valerie Ashby, Dean of the Trinity College of Arts and Sciences, and Ravi Bellamkonda, Vinik Dean of the Pratt School of Engineering. Valerie became Dean of Trinity College in July of 2015 and was recently reappointed to a second 5-year term. She received her BA and PhD degrees from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where she also chaired the Department of Chemistry from 2012 to 2015. Ravi came to Duke a year later in August of 2016. Prior to his appointment as Dean, Ravi was the Wallace H. Coulter Professor and Chair of the Wallace H. Coulter Department of Biomedical Engineering at the Georgia Institute of Technology and Emory University, a unique collaboration between these two Atlanta institutions. Ravi received his Bachelor of Engineering degree from Osmania University in India and his PhD from Brown. Ravi and Valerie, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jen. Those were inspiring words. What we thought we would do today is Valerie and I would speak a little bit and share some thoughts with you, and then we'd have time for questions hopefully after. I'll get us started, Valerie, with your permission. So before I say anything about giving, and we have a lot to be thankful for at Duke as a family, I just want to say that I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. I hope your family and your special ones are safe and finding the silver linings that every crisis presents itself. And just know that although you're not strictly still at Duke, you're very much in the Duke family. Once you're part of Duke, you're always a part of Duke. I hope you know that, and I hope if there's anywhere we can help, we would be happy to do that, and I hope you know that. I'll just start off by saying that This has been a year like no other in multiple perspectives. Um, and I'll take a couple of minutes to tell you the big issues that Valerie and I and others at Duke have been thinking about. As Jen said, primary has been the safety and wellness of our community, and that's all of our community and our students included. Second, but just as important, has been how to continue our learning mission. How do we continue not just graduation and filling credits, but really learning in this context? We obviously are very committed to our research mission, because if there is one thing we know now, we know that it's the paucity of good science that puts us in this predicament in many ways. And I'm glad to see the vaccines are underway, but that's science, and including the spread of the disease to understanding it. So Duke is very committed to research in this space, and we've had both Valerie and I and the medical school have been continuing those efforts. And then, of course, we have the increasing broad realization of structural issues with inequity and racism that we are not immune to as a community, and have been thinking hard about what it means for us as a Duke and a leading research university in the South. And speaking of giving and such, we've had a financial crisis to deal with. So I didn't mean to start us off on a list of challenges, but I thought I would share with you a little bit of our worlds for the past year. But I will say that in the midst of this, I couldn't be prouder to be at Duke and watch us respond to all of these issues and more as a community. First, our faculty and staff on very short notice, as Valerie says, taking 6,000 courses online, many of whom were not very tech savvy to begin with. Just incredible response of going above and beyond, no weekends, just no breaks, childcare at home, schools off. So just very challenging circumstances, not complaining, just rising to the mission, because we all believe in delivering and serving our students. The students themselves, there is a lot that students could complain about, wishing for a world that they knew before, or wishing it was different, but realizing that this is our state, and making the best possible effort, complying with the COVID compact and reaching November with, I don't know, 30 cases overall, or some very small number of cases relative to everybody else in the world. Just remarkable. No matter how much Valerie and I, or Mary Pat, or Gary Bennett can pat ourselves on the back, or the Duke Health System, it's really the students that made this happen in many ways through their complying with our urging and nudging and guidance. So we're very grateful to them. And I'll say something that I won't include Valerie and myself in, but the Duke leadership, our president, our provost, our health system, Kyle Kavanaugh, many others, you may know some of these folks, really stepped up to do an unbelievable, remarkable thing to make this possible for us to get to where we are in terms of testing and contact tracing and putting the infrastructure behind the scenes. Multiple testings are making it easy, the app that monitors health, all of this stuff. So all that brings me to you and for your support. We've had many inquiries from many of you asking how you could help, how you could, checking in on us. So just it feels wonderful to be a part of, a community like Duke, and thank you for your support. Coming to Giving Tuesday, and I'll just end on these two notes. Valerie and I always say that the annual fund allows us to do two things primarily. It allows us to do many things, but in two broad categories. One is that it allows us to sort of invent the Duke of the future. So when you were a Duke, or your children were a Duke, or the Duke was a little different from it is today. And the way it becomes different is when a faculty member or a staff member has an idea for trying something different, something new that would make our students' experience better, or have a research idea that would make the world better. Valerie and I have a chance to invest in that and we invest in it using flexible dollars like annual. The other way the annual fund allows us and plays a really important role besides inventing the future Duke, which is constantly getting better, constantly setting an example to the world, as we just spoke about, is in dealing with the unexpected. We have a normal budgetary process where we allow for, running of the university. When something unexpected happened, and for sure, this year, many unexpected things happened. The only way we really have to deal with that is through flexible monies that we haven't already budgeted for this or that. And the annual fund is absolutely, absolutely critical. I cannot imagine us being where we are today without it. Just a couple of glimpses of how we use the annual fund. We had to run in our STEM programs in Trinity and in Pratt labs. And how do you run a lab when some students are not here or virtual? So we had to come up with all sorts of creative things. We can talk about it in the Q&A. We mailed kits to our students. We curated, we had a sort of assembly line of staff members on the floor. We have pictures of this, assembling kits to mail, and we had to hunt down, and I have stories to tell you about different parts of the world the kits went to. It turns out the kits reached Asia a lot easier than Canada, because Canada has very strict controls apparently about electronic components being sent to them for our ECE labs or computing labs. So anyway, I could tell you many stories here. But anyway, and then there is this whole issue of student wellness. Normally, Valerie and I are deeply committed not just to learning, but the whole person being well and taking the world on from a position of being centered. And how do you take care of our whole community when they're spread everywhere? And Duke responded quickly by making wellness services available all over the country. Previously, we never had to do that because everybody was here. We had to come up with all sorts of things to deal with that. So just to give you a glimpse of our deep, deep commitment to our undergraduate student population, their experience, their learning, their safety, and we have a lot to be grateful for. And we have a lot to thank you for your support, for enabling us to be good stewards of your faith in us and good stewards of the Duke tradition of serving its people and doing it in the Duke way, an innovative, committed, caring way. So I'll pass things on to Valerie, who has been exemplary in her leadership and in guiding me through my crisis moments, because she has 1 year of seniority on me. But Valerie?
Ravi, thank you. I'll just start where you ended. I am grateful for doing this with you and with the Duke leadership team. I think in crisis, Ravi and I have been talking about this a lot, but in crisis, you find out who people are and you find out what's important to them and to you pretty quickly. And you focus on those things. And I'm grateful, as Ravi ended his comments of being at a place like Duke, where we care about our people, about their well-being. We care about our mission to deliver this amazing liberal arts education in this research environment that is even in COVID. We are still equally as committed to that mission, even though it's different the way that we have to accomplish it. But our care and concern for the whole of who our students, faculty, and staff are, that to me was inspiring. And even though we were exhausted, we were working for our people and our mission. And that's worth doing every day, every single day. And so let me just add a little bit to what Ravi said, and then I'd love to leave more time for questions. When I think about the focus on our people, we immediately, of course, as Ravi said, cared most about the health and safety and well-being of our faculty and staff and students. And I just love some of the things that the annual fund allowed us to do for our people overall, whether it's academic, for the academic side of things or the wellness side or whatever it was. It was everything from our faculty who are extraordinary scholars, now across multiple disciplines, starting areas of research around COVID. we didn't know that we were going to need to start new areas of research around this incredibly large topic that spans across the liberal arts and sciences and engineering. It's policy, it's social science, it's in the humanities, it's health disparities, it's all sorts of vaccine development. Our faculty immediately became the leading scholars that, as we say, we're driving the bus and putting the wheels on at the same time. That's what you can do on the spur of the moment when something like this happens, when we have flexible dollars where we can support new research efforts. My social scientists and some folks in policy are pursuing a question of what is the long-term impact on productivity and work out of this moment. And of course, I want them to be able to do that fabulous research along with our undergraduates who are doing research with them on these teams and our graduate students. And so being able to pursue new areas, even in this very challenging moment, is really critical to our mission, because we aren't just creating knowledge for knowledge's sake. We're creating knowledge to meet societal needs and for societal benefit. And if we aren't doing that in COVID and around COVID, I don't know what we would be doing at this moment. In the same way, we have scholars who are really working on the area of racism. As the country awakened to where we were on issues of race, our president put out a really strong statement to say that Duke is going to lead in this area. And why shouldn't we? We're Duke in the South. We're Duke with an interesting, rich history. We're Duke with a responsibility to our community, not just locally, but nationally and internationally even. And we have scholars across multiple disciplines in these areas. And we've been able to support that research, which is fantastic. But also we've cared a lot about the student experience. And so whenever I talk about faculty research, know that that means that there are students right alongside who are able to have these same experiences. We've been able to also focus on the students, what their needs are in this moment. So we've increased the number of sections, as you would not be surprised, for our first year students who are in the courses on purpose and meaning. They filled up immediately. Right. And we had to increase the number of sections because students are asking bigger and different questions in this moment about not just the meaning of their lives, but about how they're going to walk this out in their college experience to become the people they want to become in the world, to make differences that really matter. So I'm thrilled that we had more student interest than we had sections, and we were able to actually scale that, which is phenomenal. Also thinking about the challenges that diversity brings to Duke's campus in a moment like this. I always like to say that it's a beautiful thing when all of our students are able to come to campus, because it is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you've come from, what part of the world, what language you speak, what the economic situation is of your family. When you are on Duke's campus, it's as close as we can get to every student having access to everything that Duke has to offer. But when we sent our students home, and they were in 80 countries and in every state, with varying degrees of access to the internet or various home situations, and some able to study better than others because of their home situation, or not having what they might have needed to make that transition, that actually took some economic support to try to level that playing field as they were not on campus. And even now, as most of them are back on campus, we still have students whose families' economic situations have changed dramatically and unexpectedly in this moment. And I'm grateful that we have been able to meet those needs. We've had technology needs. We've had needs with students that need access to some of the lab equipment and such sort of things that they need. We've had students who have needed to change their housing and needed further assistance with that. And we've actually been able to meet a lot of those basic needs, unexpected needs for many of our students, to try to deliver this world-class liberal arts education equally to all of our students. It's really important to us to have a diverse group of students, but that they all have access to this beautiful thing that we're trying to accomplish. So For all of your giving, we are truly grateful. Flexibility in this moment is our key word, right? I don't even think it's resilience. I just think it's flexibility. Whatever the day brings, adjust and do the best that you can. But the funds that you have contributed and the trust that you've given us with those has really enabled us to make decisions that support the entirety of our community in this moment. And I'm really proud of Duke for not forgetting or not even questioning whether or not the people were the most important thing to address in this moment. So with that, I will pause. And Ravi, I don't know if there's anything else you want to share.
Sure, I'll just add a couple of things if we have time, Jen, if that's okay.
It is.
Yeah, 2 or 3 things that are extraordinary that led us in the safety space. I don't know if you know, but we've made a commitment to continue, obviously, to be need blind and rising to the challenge of all sorts of needs, and that's a big commitment for us. Duke doesn't, as healthy as that endowment is, the part of it for financial aid is not as generous as we would like it to be, and it puts stress on our system. We've rented out luxury apartment complexes that were just opening, hotels, JB Duke and Washington Duke, to allow our students to, have, there are many decisions taken to be single occupancy so that we can have safety above everything. So in all these decisions, Duke, what makes me proud when you work for an institution is, it really does make me proud to have an institution that's informed by its values, that rises the moment and doesn't try to, optimize for saving money here and there and doing things halfway. Just never a question that if it is right for our students, we will try to do that. And also, some of you may remember there was a lot of national discussion about tuition and should the tuition remain the same? Should it go up? And it's remote, it's not the same, all this stuff. As you're within the family, we'll share with you that, in an ironic way, this has been the most expensive year in Duke's life to deliver its educational programming, by far, not even close. And I understand parents and students feeling like the product is not the same. Indeed, it isn't, but it is the best it can be thanks to your support and thanks to Duke really not sparing a thought for shortchanging the student experience. If there's anything we could do, our classrooms were not all equipped to do online teaching. We bought carts with Zoom's technology on it so that you could wheel them into classrooms. We did all sorts of things to respond. I don't want to share too much of the sausage making with you, but it just makes me proud to be part of an institution that prioritized the educational experience over everything else and safety over everything else, because those two are, and continues to do so. Next semester will, some of you may be wondering, we are all watching the numbers like you across the country and internationally. We're also watching the vaccine news come in. Duke has incredible public health expertise, as you saw from the last semester. We have 3 former FDA commissioners for our faculty. So we have incredible expertise that works together as a team. That's also very special. So we will do the best we can to continue to keep Duke safe, to meet our residential mission of providing community for our students. We will have more students than we had in the fall on campus. We've invited all those who wish to live on campus to come back, which we're proud of, our ability to do that. We will still watch the circumstances and make adjustments as necessary. But just wanted to add that in an ironic way, it is really this ability to be flexible, but placing our values and commitment to students up top that really informs who we are as Duke. And I also want to thank many of you who stepped up to offer internships and things like this over the last summer. Many parents and alums, I was looking at some numbers, almost 758. So some of you offered. So there's all sorts of ways in which you helped also, going back to the giving thing. There's many ways you have given, and we're very grateful.
Yeah, Ravi, before Jen goes, I'd just like to say, for those of you who are parents out there, you have some special children. You truly have some special children. These Ravi and I love these children like they belong to us. And by the way, one of Ravi's children is actually one of mine in Trinity. So I feel very proud of that. But I watch them. You know, there's a lot of talk about how resilient students are, or not these days. But I watched them. It was hard, and I watched them make adjustments. But I also watched them make adjustments with this measure of grace that has to have come from you as their parents. I sat in classes where I watched students clap at the end of a lecture and thank the faculty member for doing this, right? Like, and the faculty report just this amazing gratitude and willingness of the students to keep making adjustments as we've needed to throughout the semester. And then I'll get pictures of students. They'll text me and they'll show me them socially distancing to go get ice cream, right? Like, I love these kids. How could you not love that? So they're doing amazing work. And they're dealing with this very abnormal space of being a little bit isolated in ways that are the opposite of the Duke experience in many cases. But I just wanted to say that we are grateful, as Ravi mentioned it in his opening remarks, but the students have just been extraordinary. And I know they're tired, and I know they want it to go back to the way that it was. And for those who are first years, they don't even know what it was yet. But I'm just grateful for how they're showing up. Because if they weren't the community that they are, we would not be able to do this. And I think they actually are pretty proud of themselves that they're at a university that was able to do it. Now, we know not to have too much pride because we know that a pandemic is not under our control. But I think that they actually feel some measure of pride that they were able to do this for themselves, for the entire Duke community, and also caring for the community in which they live in Durham, right? They realized that a significant number of our students were living off campus, and they felt a responsibility to that community, which I so appreciate. So whatever you did, it was good. And so we're just delighted to have your students here. So.
Great. Ravi and Valerie, thank you both. Valerie, I know that you need to leave us in just a few minutes for a prior commitment. But just one question before you head out. Ravi touched very briefly on the spring. We learned a lot in the fall. Duke did an amazing job. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to the students, right? Duke laid out its plans and its protocols, and the students followed suit. So that's really incredible. As we look forward to spring, Ravi mentioned we invited all students back who wanted to come. What does spring semester look like? What are the differences? Will there be more in-person classes, opportunities for community building, et cetera?
Sure. So let me start where most of the adults start with me, and they say, is there going to be any basketball in Cameron? The answer is no, right? So we get that one off the table. And as I saw an interview with Mike Krzyzewski recently, he said, it's just weird. It's just strange. Like, my first year players have no idea what it means to play in this place that is amazing. So it will be different, but it'll be similar to what I think we have done this semester. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about how to keep people safe, or do our best to keep people safe. We've learned a lot about, our contact tracing, our testing, our quarantining, and we will begin the way we started the fall semester, which is to really set the baseline and make sure that everybody is safe before they're coming back into classrooms. So it will look very similar to that. The thing that we also learned, which is also something Ravi alluded to, was the health and the well-being of our students, emotional and the mental well-being of our students. But it's not just our students. As Ravi said, our faculty have been working since March. Like, they literally have been working since March. And they missed their spring break. They missed their summer in many regards. And they really are just getting the first break now. And so what we learned, even though it was a very smart public health move, I believe, to not have students have a break where they would fall break where they would go home and come back, because I believe that would have been quite disturbing for our beautiful Duke bubble that we have established. What we also know is our students do need a break and our faculty do need a moment. And so it's not as trivial as it seems because of accreditation issues and hours that one has to be in the classroom or on Zoom. But we have incorporated now, I think there will be 3 days, 2 back-to-back days in a version of a short break, and then 1 wellness day that's separate from those 2 days, where we just encourage our faculty on that wellness day to really, take care of themselves, but also have the students have a day of kind of reflection and just quiet. And so I think we learned that. It's certainly good. The practice of not going home physically is good, but with no break, that was a little intense. And so I'm excited that we've incorporated that. I think it's going to make it significantly better. In addition, I think there are many of our faculty who were really uncomfortable and uncertain about the health and well-being of themselves. As I say to everybody, 1/3 of my faculty are over the age of 60. They're extraordinary faculty, and they have either concerns with their own health or maybe with the health and well-being of someone that they're caring for in their homes. Some of my younger faculty have children that they were trying to homeschool at the same time they were trying to teach. It was just pretty amazing what everybody, all the adjustments that everybody was making. And so it's really important for us to really do this wellness and health and mental health check for our faculty and staff and students. When we say staff, you're talking about the Zoom carts, Ravi. Our IT staff took hours and days to assemble these Zoom carts so that we could move them all over campus. Our facilities people had to reconfigure we have 1 million square feet just in Trinity of classroom space that they had to go in and socially distance all the classrooms and put in markers for walking and all sorts of things. So I think we learned a lot. And I'm excited that our faculty feel a little more safe. And so I think we're going to have a few more hybrid and in-person courses than we had previously, which is exciting to me. We had no transmission, by the way, in the classroom, 0. And so that's important. And I think that really taught us a lot about what's possible. But we are still leaving it to our faculty to make those decisions as they should be able to make them for themselves and for their families. So.
Wonderful. Valerie, thank you so very much for giving your time today, and more importantly, for everything you and Ravi do together for our students, our faculty, and our staff.
Well, I appreciate it. And Jen, let me just thank you and your whole team that works on the annual fund, and to all those who are on the call who have contributed. We really couldn't do what we do without, and we really appreciate everything that you've done. And I just always have to shout out my co-conspirator here, Ravi. If you want to know what the best of Duke is, you're looking at it. He's phenomenal. And it's just a pleasure to work with him. So I hope you all have a good rest of your afternoon.
Great. Thank you, Valerie. Okay, Ravi, we've got some questions that some of our attendees submitted ahead of time. And you touched very, very briefly on one of them. Students, as they look forward to the summer and they are thinking about internships or first jobs once they graduate, with the uncertainty of the future, what resources does Duke have to offer students? Do they need to be doing this on their own?
Not at all. By the way, we have a fantastic new career services director, Greg Victory, who came to us from Tufts. If any of you haven't seen him or met him, he's like a bundle of energy. So we're fantastic. He's fantastic. So we've been working right from, actually, speaking of learning and getting better every day, from last March, because in March last year, we had to scramble because some of the students' internships were withdrawn, some job offers were withdrawn. So we've set up an infrastructure now about how to deal with finding and helping our students find internships and jobs in a virtual world. Engaging the Duke community was one part, but also now we're in much better shape there. So we had in the fall, we had a career fair. We have a technology career fair that the engineering school runs for all of Duke. So we had a slight reduction in the number of companies, but still a healthy number. I believe there were like 55 or so companies come and they were hiring. They were hiring internships. They were hiring for jobs. We also have access to the NC State Career Fair, so which is a larger career fair because they have an ag school and for a broader range of industries. And so our Duke students actually have access to that career fair. And they actually do very well when they go to that career fair because the employers are impressed that Duke students would take the initiative to join this other career fair and all of that stuff. So long and short, looking ahead, we still have our Tech Connect. I think in February, it's the 8th or 9th. There's a Startup Connect where we have startup companies come and connect with our students. The regular career fair is still slated to happen through the career services. So it's a very coordinated effort to continue this. And it is actually continuing. We're not seeing sort of calamitous signs with employers not hiring kinds of things. You hear such stories nationally, but I think the Duke student quality is well known. And for many of these companies, especially in the innovation space, their biggest fear is not new technology displacing them. Their biggest fear is not getting the brightest talent to come work with them. And certainly we have some incredible talent here that's well known. So far, I'm optimistic that it shouldn't negatively impact our students' ability to find jobs or internships.
That's wonderful. Okay, another question submitted deals with laboratories. So how are the labs in the sciences and engineering being conducted with so many students at home?
That's right. So it's not just the students at home. Even when the students are here, we've had to reduce density. So part of what Valerie was saying in terms of our facilities group, before the semester started, every lab, people went in, looked at the structure of the lab, figured out how many students could be in the lab safely masked at any given time, and it dramatically reduced our capacity to 25, 30% sometimes. Sometimes, if we were lucky, 40% to 50% could be in the lab. So we've had to adapt. I'm telling you, this is why the work that Valerie was alluding to about not having a break, it took a village. It took facilities, it took our instructors, it took lab directors, it took teaching assistants. So there was a whole bunch, and we had to offer many more sections than we normally would for a given time slot to allow for the students to be there safely. So the lab stuff was done through a spectrum. If it could be done electronically, if there were good simulations, or if a kit could be mailed so people could make measurements at home and it was safe to do so, we did that. Again, many schools actually, some of my other deans at other engineering schools actually tried to do that, but they would give a list to their students saying, buy this set of components and this is the vendor, and they would tell them. We didn't do that. As I told you, we curated each component. So because if an experiment doesn't work, and I've done enough labs in my life to know that doesn't always work, you don't know if the component is not working or something else is not working. So we wanted to reduce, already people are tense. So we curated, and the quality of the things we mailed are amazing. And there are incredible student stories about other things they've done with the stuff we sent. So we did that. If students were here, then we had either a whole in-person experience like we did in our design class, our first year design class, probably the largest in-person class taught at Duke, 300 students, multiple sections, 15 faculty teaching this, and it was incredibly successful. But we used the electronic things when they were making their final presentations of their products that they actually built, not virtual, they built stuff. We allowed students, parents to call in. And I don't know if some of you called in, but we couldn't do that in the normal world. Normally, they have an exhibit. We have all over campus, students showing us what they built, or demonstrating a robot or a drone, or one year they were shooting meat for bears to feed safely. They were doing all sorts of stuff. Normally, parents wouldn't have a chance to see that, but now parents called in via Zoom to see that. So where it was in person, we were able to do that, but it took a lot of effort. And then they were hybrid. So we did some in-person meetings, But then they had small lab sections which met virtually, but synchronously. So they all had to sign up at the same time. And so we gave our faculty flexibility to meet their learning goals, because ultimately each faculty member owns their class, takes pride in its quality, but we provided support if they needed anything at all. TA's hiring was hard, because normally TAs are here. Upperclassmen TA, graduate students TA. Now TAs were not all here. So we had to come up with new ways to support our students and their learning through teaching assistants and finding enough of them. So just that we, in a variety of ways, we were able to deliver. And where possible, we were hoping some of the labs were put off to spring, hoping that things would be better. But we now know enough to do that. So we'll have slightly more in-person labs this semester than we did last, because we know how to do it safely. And the other thing that's happened in engineering especially is we have a new building that has just come online. It has increased the teaching space for STEM by 50%, 50,
Wow.
because 2 floors of this building are completely dedicated to undergraduate learning, labs, design, entrepreneurship. So active learning, so all sorts of rooms that we didn't have on the Duke campus at all, leave alone quantity of space, but the quality of space is incredible. So that gives us some more flexibility to offer more in-person things with the reduced density. So, so I hope.
So Ravi, for those on the call who are familiar with campus, they may be wondering, looking behind you and thinking, that's not a view that I recognize.
That is right. So thank you for pointing that out and noticing. One of the most wonderful things about this building, the most wonderful thing is what I just told you.
So this is the new building that your background.
That's right. That's right. But the second most wonderful thing about this building is it has incredible views of our chapel. And so I am sitting on the terrace of the new building on the 5th floor, which is wonderful and has this view of the chapel. So when things are safe, I think this is a must-see spot for you. The new engineering building is right next to Bostock. You cannot miss it. It's beautiful. It has Duke's first hologram display of science and cool things. It's got all sorts of cool tech in it. It has art in it. So I'm very excited. Thank you. But that is also, by the way, would not be possible without the generosity of our parents and our alums. Because I come, as you said, from state school, Georgia Tech. When Georgia Tech wanted to build a building, all the state campuses would put their wish list. The legislature would approve them at some frequency, and we would get money to build a building. And that was that. So as a dean or as a provost, we didn't have to go raise money at all. The legislature would just appropriate it.
Right.
Now, they wouldn't appropriate as often as we would like, but they would. So this building, like at Duke, every dollar comes from, we have to raise it. We just don't have the money to do that. And I'm very, very grateful to those of you who contributed to the building or to other spaces at Duke, not just in engineering. You really shaped Duke in a way that when we don't have legislative support, in terms of things, it really comes down to our making our own way.
Well, the views are spectacular for sure. So another question, and it's still so soon, you may not even have thought a lot about it at this point, but this past 9 months has really changed, as you and Valerie have talked about, the way we deliver education. And so once we get back to normal, whatever the new normal is, are there pieces of this educational experience that you think will continue into the future? You had mentioned just a few minutes ago with the design course, parents now being able to see. And so are there aspects that you could see carrying on into the future?
It's funny that you ask. We have been actively thinking about that. So there are many things actually that we have learned from this, right? We have learned that, about 10 or 15 years ago, some of you may remember, there is this thing that universities will become like Silicon Valley, that, it'll just go virtual. The ETS, which administers GRE or SAT, College Board, will administer the tests, and you could take an online class with anybody and anywhere in the world, and you don't need residential universities like Duke and Princeton and all these places, and is dramatically going to be disrupted. What we have learned in this pandemic is that is absolutely not going to happen for the major part, in the sense, at least for places like Duke, where we have learned that what makes Duke uniquely Duke, and places like Duke, is the residential campus where people meet face to face. We have learned that we went online, and my son, who's at Duke, as Valerie alluded to, you know, as faculty, we tend to think that a university is all about the courses you take and what majors you get and minors and certificates. But from our students' perspective, I guess I should have known this as a Duke, as a dean, but as a dad observing and then talking to our students, you know, whatever we think of as parents about our students in a university, only about, I would say, 20% of their experience is actually about classes. 80% of their experience is about fellow students and their peers, the social aspects. My son writes for the Chronicle. He's the opinion editor. He's part of. So there's a whole bunch of things they do that have nothing to do with actually the online class that makes Duke for them. So what I'm saying is we have learned the value of some of the things we do well before this world, and we need to preserve them. But we have also learned that we can do a lot of things very efficiently in this online world. So there are many implications of that. So can we provide content for students who are accelerated that's more using this model? For those who are, there's unevenness in preparation coming into Duke, can we provide supplementary stuff that's not remedial, but helps them catch up? Right. Can we tape things for different kinds of learners? Could we have electronic content so they can rewind and watch in their jammies, and if they want to listen to a lecture again, they could do that? Are there simulations and things like that, specific courses actually that are working better in the online thing than in the in-class thing? Students sometimes who are shy are more apt to hit the raise your hand button and get a chance to speak than people who are used to speaking a lot always speak in class. So there's all sorts of things we've learned, we're gathering together. For sure, I think we will do better actually than if this had not happened, as painful as that is. The experience of students in the fall when things go back to quote unquote some semblance of normal, fingers crossed, will be a better learning experience for what we've gone through.
It's great. So you talked about, you know, what makes Duke is the academic and the co-curricular aspects of the experience. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, before COVID hit, you and Valerie and Mary Pat McMahon and Gary Bennett spent a lot of time together really talking about the undergraduate student experience and how, you know, the co-curricular enhance the academics and vice versa. So could you talk a little bit about how that looks?
Absolutely. So the disclaimer is this is a work in progress. So I'm sharing with you ideas that we are bouncing around. It is not yet translated into a concrete program. So, but I will give you a glimpse of what we're thinking. Valerie and I have been thinking a lot about what does success mean for our students? Right? What is success? So if you ask our student, you know, you know, who would you like to be or what would you like to be? They usually will tell you, I want a job with McKinsey, or I want to go to grad school at this place, or so they'll tell you what they want to do, but not who they want to be. And we've been thinking about, you know, we would like our students to be successful in life, broadly speaking. And a big part of that success in life is their professional success and their career success, but it is not all of it. So if you accept this premise that career success is not all success, the question is what's in that space? And what we think is in that space is what Valerie was alluding to earlier, is this notion of a muscle for reflection for oneself, to always be mindful of, you know, its family, it's some sense of meaning, some sense of purpose, some sense of having impact. you know, these kinds of things. Then the question is, how do you get at those kinds of things? Is it incidental? Do they get it from church or parents or something else? What is the role of the university in doing this? So I will say that to cut a long story short, we feel there are at least four ways in which we have an opportunity to influence our students. One is their courses. Second is their extracurricular activities, like you alluded to.
Yeah.
Third is our advising system, which we are in early conversations to completely reimagine. Imagine having a purpose coach, not just a coach that tells you what prerequisites what, right? So this is a conversation we're actively having in engineering to pilot. And then the fourth element is the residential life and where students live. And there's an active thing to reimagine the residential life experience with more faculty engagement, with more activities around the residents and all of that. In all four, imagine working together to this broader team, coordinated to ensure student success. So what will it'll actually look like when we get all this together in the next 2 or 3 years? I don't know yet, but I do know that I will count on some of your support to help us try some pilot experiments to try to do that well. So because I think, like any system, you're not going to engineer the whole thing perfectly. So what Valerie and I like to do is we like to run a few experiments, a pilot here, pilot there, using annual fund dollars or other philanthropy, and then we incorporate that into our system. And so this is a collaboration between Mary Pat, who's our director of student services. She's amazing. Gary Bennett, who's incredible, who's got expertise in student well-being in his research. He's an incredible guy. We really have some incredible people, Maybe you can discount me from it, but I'm telling you, we have some amazing people that do. Really, it is my pleasure to work with them. There's no politics. We're all of one mind to help our students.
Ravi, what I love about you and Valerie, two really important things. First is your authenticity. You are so authentic, and your passion for what you do is just absolutely contagious. So what I heard is stay tuned. There is hopefully a lot coming in the next few years. I would love to sign up to have a purpose coach. That sounds incredible. Thank you so very much for everything you do for our students, for your vision, for your thoughtfulness, and for your caring. Truly, Duke is very privileged to have you and Valerie as two of our deans. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all, and have a wonderful and safe holiday.
Thank you. Everybody, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. For those of you who have supported the Duke Annual Fund, thank you very much. You make so much possible at our great university for our students and our faculty and our programs. I hope that hearing from Valerie and Ravi may have inspired some of you future donors to make a gift today in honor of Giving Tuesday and in support of our amazing students. Thank you so very much for your time today and for your generosity and for all you do for Duke. Have a wonderful afternoon and take care.